We are expecting the full House of Representatives to vote sometime next week whether to hold two former Trump aides in contempt of Congress. This after the House Rules Committee voted 9-4 along party lines today to advance contempt resolutions for Peter Navarro and Dan Scavino over their refusals to cooperate in the investigation into the insurrection. As for the ringleader of the insurrection, after a ruling last week in which a federal judge said the evidence before him showed that Donald Trump likely committed crimes, the question is whether there will be a criminal referral from the January 6th committee for the ex-president, what legal and political ramifications that would involve. But there are signs the committee may not be ready to take that step. Committee member Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren told Politico, quote, a referral doesn't mean anything, has no legal weight whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure the Department of Justice has read last week's opinion, so they don't need us to tell them it exists. Congresswoman Elaine Luria is a Democrat of Virginia who serves on the January 6th committee, and she joins me now. First, let me just start on that and ask if you agree broadly with your colleagues' reading on the situation.
Well, Chris, thanks for having me back. You know, I would say that I don't agree with what some of my colleagues have said about this. I think it's a lot more important to do what's right than it is to worry about the political ramifications. And, this committee, our purpose is legislative and oversight. But if in the course of our investigation we find that criminal activity has occurred, I think it's our responsibility to refer that to the Department of Justice, even if they already know, even if 10 other judges or sets of circumstances have made that determination. I think it's within the responsibility of our committee, if we should find that evidence, that we do refer it.
Yeah, I want to read this quote because I think that I've seen some analysis in both directions, and it sounds like what you're saying is, look, if the merits determine that, then you should say it, right? This was quoted in the piece in Politico. A formal criminal referral from Congress in the situation could backfire. The Justice Department's charging decision should not be influenced by political pressure. That's how this might look. A referral could make it harder for the department to prosecute. What do you think about that?
I think that the purpose of this committee is to lay out the facts. And if in those facts we find evidence that criminal acts, that crimes occurred, I think we have to include that in our report. And I think that we have to forward that to the Department of Justice because they're the ones that have to deal with crimes.
Two big issues coming up. There'll be the vote on Navarro and Scavino and whether the Department of Justice moves ahead on those on charges there. But there's also the question of hearings and whether there'll be sort of primetime televised hearings. I wonder if you can give us a sense of what the committee's members or your thinking is on that.
Well, Chris, I think that this is a really important issue. It's fundamental to our democracy and protecting our institutions of government. I think it's important that every American has the opportunity to hear the work of this committee, the facts that we've uncovered, and we would like to lay those out in a way that reaches the most people possible. So the hearings will definitely be televised. The exact timing and schedule is something that we're still working on as we continue interviewing witnesses. But our goal is for this information to reach every American.
What are the stakes? I mean, what do you view as what would be success for you in this investigation when it's all is said and done? How are you defining success as a lawmaker, as a citizen?
I want to know the facts. And I think that, the committee is doing a very intensive investigation, following a lot of different paths to reach the truth about what happened on January 6th, leading up to January 6th. And the purpose of the committee, as a committee in Congress, is to provide recommendations to prevent something like this from happening in the future. So, I think that the work of laying out the facts is the first step, but then the legislative work of determining, what recommendations we can make, what type of laws can protect our government and our election in the future is very important as well. So I think both of those elements are key to the success of this committee.
I mean, I'm being only slightly tongue-in-cheek here, but isn't part of electing Donald Trump president again would be very dangerous and go a long way towards possibly reproducing the conditions this would happen again. I mean, it seems like there's no getting around that fundamental fact. Whatever structural factors there were, whatever oversight there was on the day, and why weren't police more prepared, like fundamentally, the most powerful person in the country in the world was intent on subverting American democracy, and this was the result.
I agree with that assessment, but, that's up to the voters. And, after we've had the opportunity to lay out all these facts for them to understand, what went into essentially an attempted coup to overthrow the government, to steal the election, and to disrupt the proceedings that certify the electoral count, and then resulted in violence that led to death and destruction of property. If people can watch that and would then choose to vote for him or someone who shared his values in the future, I think that's very concerning as well.
Well, and then there's also the question of the Republican Party more broadly, which it does seem has, in certain ways, managed to kind of wriggle out from the taint of this, awful, awful thing that their leader of their party did and would do again in a heartbeat and is currently plotting.
Certainly there are those in the Republican Party who've embraced this, and they continue to double down. They're very clear. Others have had a lot of courage, like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, who served with us on the committee, those who did vote in the second impeachment. And, I think as an American, I would hope that, there were more people in the Republican Party serving in office today who could look at the facts of what happened and uphold their constitutional duty to implement our laws, not to undermine them.